Hey everyone, so this video is sort of fueled by Matt Easton's recent video on Schola Gladiatoria about, about sort of muscles and training, and about how holding your spear, overarm, like this wasn't actually that difficult, just because we aren't used to, having these strong shoulder and upper arm muscles compared to everyone else's. But I argue that's not quite the case, as well as a few other stuff. So on that idea of athleticism and just being used to having your equipment instead of just general fitness, I definitely agree with that. This last semester at school, I didn't have as much chance to practice weapons because I was in more advanced classes and just didn't get the chance. So when I came back to this semester, I thought, oh boy, I'll get to train with my big long spear and my nice late Roman shield, and this did not work. I was, especially in my wrists, I was very not used to having that much strain and that much stress from having something as big and heavy as these. Which brings up my first point, which is I think if it's, that specific fitness of how you hold your weapons, you can, this is again a lot of shoulder strength and a lot of upper arm strength. As a swimmer, you're used to having that sort of power coming from your back, or the back of your shoulders and your arms and such. So this never had any strain. But something that you almost never do in modern society is wrist strength. So this is a big, long piece of steel just at the end of an 8-foot pole. So this takes a good amount of wrist strength, and if you're trying to control a thrust, you definitely feel it in your wrist and like the inside of your elbow. So two places that, modern exercise don't really do. You don't really need a lot of wrist strength to do things. Same thing with just this, a meter diameter piece of half-inch thick wood with a big wooden bar and a nice steel bowl on top. Holding this out is, again, puts a lot of strain, not so much on the arm and shoulder, but on the wrist. Which also makes me revise an earlier point, or not so much revise, but add on to, where I talked about how using a buckler takes a lot of skill, whereas hand somebody one of these, and they're golden. I just not sure if I buy that as much after having not practiced with one of them. The amount of strength it takes to use a shield like this is comparable to the amount of skill used to wield a smaller shield. You don't need that much skill. You do need to work around your shield, but it's not that difficult. In my 3 days of training to get back into the thick of things, I think I lightly bumped into my shield rim once. So, it's not a big trial or anything to work around one of these. So it's easier, but it does take a lot more strength. So you still need just as much training. But yeah, so that's my point. Using the spear underarm like this takes just as much muscle training to be able to do as using it overhand like this, and if anything, slightly more so, because you need to not only be able to just hold it and thrust, but you need to be able to, wrangle your spear back in if it gets knocked away, and you might want to, if you do a feint or something, you have to scoop it up, and you can't always rely on it resting, across your arm or in your armpit. You have to be able to support it with just your hand. And it takes quite a lot of strength in your wrist to be able to properly maneuver a large spear like this, or properly maneuver a big shield like this. Which brings me to another point, specifically the shields. We talked about horizontal grips in an earlier video, and holding this in a horizontal grip compared to a vertical grip is much easier. Pulling it in a horizontal grip, you just need to support the weight of the shield. If you can carry the weight of the shield pretty much at all, you're golden. The vertical grip, it wants to slide down in your hand, forcing the top of your finger and your thumb to go right up against the cutout and, in my case, that nice steel boss, and it's very uncomfortable. So I have to keep sort of tossing it up a bit to get a central grip. And as I keep fighting, my hand gets sweaty and I can't get as good grip. It keeps sliding down. Whereas with a horizontal grip, it's peachy. You don't need as good grip, you don't need as much wrist strength. It's sort of easier to wield this way. So that's my point. Using a spear underarm takes at least as much training to use overarm, and both using a nice long spear and a nice big shield both require a good amount of training to get used to all that strain on your wrist from using them. That's just something we don't need and we don't train in modern society. So, thanks for watching.